Hello, and welcome back to our new teacher cohort, the first days of school book study. All right, today we're going to be talking about Unit C, which is the real MVP of teaching. You got it, management. I'm not talking about discipline. I am talking about routines and procedures. Let me help you get your classroom life together, one routine at a time. Our outcomes for today. We're going to be summarizing Unit C, digging into Unit C, and looking at classroom management, classroom procedures, and classroom rules, okay? Again, we got our KWL. Y'all, if you're not using graphic organizers, grades K through 2, please start implementing this in your classroom. It's a great way for students to organize their thoughts as well as adults. So, before you pause this, let me give you the instructions. Our topic is going to be Unit C, Classroom Management. And I want you to jot down what you know about classroom management and what you want to know about classroom management. At the end, you're going to write down what you have learned, and then you're going to turn it into Miss Rose, right? Yeah. So go ahead and pause this and write down your K and your W thoughts. All right. Again, at the end, you are going to write down what you've learned, turn it into me so that I can converse with you if needed. Some of the next steps. Okay. Being an effective educator for me is checking to make sure that one, you've listened to this podcast. Since we're doing this book study. And two, you're good with the chapter or the unit. Okay. All right. Whew, y'all, manage your classroom or it will manage you. Screenshot this, write it on a sticky note, put it on your calendar, put it on your wall, whatever you need to do to remember this statement, because this right here is gold. Manage your classroom or it will manage you. An effective teacher, again, has what? Good classroom management. In Unit C, we're going to be talking about setting the environment in chapters 11 through 13. We're going to look at routines over rules in chapters 14 through 18. And then we're going to finish it out with looking at procedures building confidence in chapters 19 through 20. All right, our key takeaways. We're going to be looking at what is classroom management in pages 92 through 97. We're going to be looking at how to prepare your classroom on pages 11 through 100 through 109. How to talk to your students, that's a big one, on pages 110 through 118, and procedures, pages 138 through 159. If you don't already have your sticky notes and your highlighters, grab them, okay? You might want to take some notes, but you're definitely going to want to highlight and tab up these pages because Unit C is so heavy and is so important. A well-managed classroom. A well-managed classroom is going to start on what day? That's right, on day 1. You're going to come in with your classroom management plan. You're going to go over it with your students, and you're going to make sure they have a clear understanding of what you mean about classroom management in your classroom. What does that look like? Go in detail about it. It's okay. That's what's going to drive your classroom and make a peaceful year for not only you, but for the students. Students want to feel safe. They want to feel like their classroom is organized. They want to know that their teacher has a plan. And having classroom management is going to cover all of that. I'm going to keep saying it. If you don't manage your classroom, it will manage you. That makes for a very stressful year. And who wants that? Who has time for that? I personally don't. I didn't. I was very strong in classroom management. And again, and I can't say this enough, I am a resource to you, for you. If you need help with organizing, if you need help with planning out your classroom management, if you need help with just looking at your current plan, let me know. I don't mind helping you. I don't mind talking through things, okay? But I don't know how to help you if you don't come to me. All right, classroom management chapters 10 through 11. On page 92, tab this page because it's going to start your unit C. Okay, chapter 10 starts unit C. Go ahead and tab this page. I start at the very top. Classroom management refers to what the teacher do refers to what teachers do to organize students' space, time, and materials so that learning takes place. Ooh, wee! Organize students' space, time, and materials. Let's look at that. Let that sink in. How are your students spaced? Is Johnny sitting next to Clyde and Clyde and Johnny fight and talk all day? Does Johnny and Clyde, do they need to be together? Mm-mm. They don't need to sit beside each other. They're already going to be in a room together, but they definitely don't need to sit beside each other. Johnny needs to be on this side of the room and Clyde needs to be way over there. And you need to have your walking space, that walking loop, so that you can walk around and make sure Johnny and Clyde are well managed. Because if you're sitting at your desk, guess what? Johnny is going to be throwing paper at Clyde, and Clyde's going to get irritated and get up and go and tell Johnny, "Don't do that to me." And you're going to be sitting at your desk like, "Why are you up, Clyde?" Well, because you didn't see Johnny throw that piece of paper. If you have your walking loop and you're monitoring your classroom and you're managing that classroom, then you know that Johnny is over there in his seat, Clyde is over there in his seat. They're not going to throw paper. They're not going to get up and go and talk to each other because guess what? You're up. You're moving around. You're managing your classroom. You're working the room. All right. Middle of the page. Bold that bold first sentence. Begin the year with clear, compelling plan of how you want to organize your classroom, how you expect students to participate, and what you will accomplish together. Tell them these things. You're going to go over your classroom management plan so much you're going to be saying it in your sleep. Those first 3 weeks of school are nothing but classroom management and procedures. Yes, you're doing lessons, but you're also taking the time because you can at this point of the year to stop your lessons, review your routines and procedures. You're going to be practicing these for the first 3 weeks of school all the time. These should be practiced and rehearsed so much that the students know exactly what to do without you telling them to do it. That's what a routine, is. Okay. Research has identified the single most important factor influencing student success is dun, 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 classroom management. The success of your classroom is going to be classroom management. I used to always tell my students, if you can't sit and listen to me, you're not going to be able to learn what I'm telling you. Is your whole day going to be lecture? It shouldn't be, but the students need to know the goal, the objective, okay? They need to know the instruction, what I'm telling them to do in order to do it effectively. An effective teacher has classroom management. Not just good, not just any kind of classroom management. They have good classroom management. Okay. Go ahead and go down the last couple of sentences. I highlighted this, guys. The least important factor influencing student success is the demographics of the student body. In other words, at the end of the list are race, skin color, gender, national or religious background, the financial status of the family, and the neighborhood in which the students live. You got to know your students. Yes, We know that there's going to be all kinds of different students in your classroom, but all of them can have manage. You can manage all of your students in your classroom if you're clear with your expectations and you're upfront with what you're trying to convey. Say what you mean what you say. If you tell Johnny that he's gonna have to move a light if he continues to talk, you got to move that light if Johnny continues to talk. This is a primary school, so of course we're going to have a little bit more leeway when it comes to things like that. But have a routine and procedure in place for absolutely everything. So when I was in the classroom, my theme was fish, okay? And so I gave out fish sticks that sat on their desks with everybody's name on it. So Johnny had a fish stick, Clyde had a fish stick, Ella had a fish stick, Alina had a fish stick, and so did Scott. Scott had a fish stick. Everybody had a fish stick. And on their tables in their little bins, which also had their pencils, because their pencils couldn't go inside their desk because they'd be playing with their pencils. All right. Extra crayons were in that bin as well. Okay. Their scissors also went on that in that bin because you're not going to be cutting hair. You're not going to be cutting paper. All right. Those scissors are going to go in that bin. And as I'm walking around to make sure, oh, those scissors are in that bin. The pencils are used when I tell you the pencils are used. Okay. All right. That's classroom management. There we go. There we go. All right. Stay with me though. Fish sticks in the bin. All right. If Clyde is talking, all right, Clyde, if I see you talking again, you're gonna have to give me that fish stick. And this is all in my management plan that I went over with them on day one of school. All right. And I also gave the parents a copy of this so that they know about it at home. And they had to sign my discipline plan. So that way they understood, oh, you know what, Miss Rose did tell me that if Clyde continues to do da da da, she's gonna take that fish stick. What comes next after that fish stick? It was all laid out in that plan. Once I take Clyde's fish stick, that's a warning. If Clyde keeps talking or doing whatever he's doing that I had to take the fish stick for, he got written on my side pad. Oh, guess what? That's an additional warning. All right. So Clyde hadn't moved the light yet. Clyde has 2 warnings already. All right. Really 3 because I've already told him to stop. Clyde keeps going. His name's on my side pad after taking his fish stick. Clyde now has to do what? Clyde has to move a light. And when you move a light, that means that I have to mark that in your folder. And mom knows that, you know what? It's listed on this discipline plan that I got at home that I've signed that Clyde has had 3 warnings, numerous warnings that he kept doing XYZ. Now he had to move a light. All right. Miss Rose isn't just saying, Clyde, you know what? You're talking now, go move a light. I have given ample amount of chances for Clyde to stop. All right. You're with me now? Clyde moves to yellow. All right. Because I had a green light system in my classroom. So I had green, yellow, red. All right. Clyde's on yellow. All right. Clyde keeps doing it all day long. Now Clyde has to move to red. And in my discipline plan that parents had to sign that I went over with students, once you get on red, you have minutes out on Friday, Fun Friday time. All right. And Fun Friday in my classroom was super fun because as a teacher, you need to have that balance of working hard. You can also play hard. All right. So on Fridays, we had Fun Friday, and it was a time for students to be students. I taught kindergarten, so be 5 and 6 year olds. All right. Once I had to do that with Clyde, and he knew that, oh, I don't get to play with these fun blocks. I don't get to talk with my friends during free time. I don't get to tell the joke that I want to tell. Next week, Clyde didn't do that because I had clear expectations in my classroom, and there were consequences, and we'll talk about positive and consequences later on, positive rewards and consequences later on. All right. But Clyde knew all of that since the beginning of school, since day one. And so when I had to do it, I reminded him of those rules every step of the way. And so that he knew what was coming if he didn't do da, 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 da. Parents knew what was coming because they already had a copy of it at home and they signed it with me that da, 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 da was going to happen. So there were no surprises. Clear, concise expectations, rules, and procedures that not only the parents know, but the students know from day one. Okay. All right. At the very bottom, I starred once and for all. Let's stop using student demographics as an excuse for the lack of achievement. Classroom management, not demographics, determine success. Y'all, it doesn't matter who's in your classroom. We're going to have some stinkers in there, but every student deserves to be loved. All right? Classroom management also equals love. Structure equals love. Being fair. If you have a good classroom management set, everybody has the same rules, same procedures, same rewards, same consequences. Everything is fair. Eventually, that little stinker is going to fall in line because he sees what's happening, not just to him or her, but to every single person in that classroom if they do dut, 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 dut. Okay? All right. Moving on. Page 93. I highlighted how you manage your classroom determines how well your students will learn. And you can go ahead and read through those bullet points under what is classroom management. The first thing to clarify is that classroom management is not discipline. Ooh, 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 ooh. Take a moment and read that paragraph because it is super duper important. I also highlighted it is only in education where management is confused with discipline. Management and discipline are not synonymous terms, okay? Discipline is how many educators define and view classroom management, not as procedures for learning, but as rules and regulations. Discipline is behavior management, and that can be found when we get to chapter 17, okay? On page 94, management is what you do. As management is what managers do. They have the capacity to produce an effective They have the capacity to produce an effect by transforming resources into function and results. Highlight that. Also, go ahead and highlight those two bullet points underneath. Discipline is behavior management. Classroom management is organization and procedures. Whoa. Discipline is behavior management. So, did you see in my story about Clyde? I had behavior management that went along with my discipline plan. Okay. And because I had behavior management that went along with my discipline plan, my classroom management was organized with the procedures that were put into place. It all ties together. So before day one starts, you need to have your classroom management written out on a poster somewhere, on a big poster sticky note somewhere. You can get it laminated. You can get one of those cute ones that you want if you want to get a cute one from one of those education stores. Okay. But have it visible so that students know what's going on and you can refer back to it all year long. All right. Have your procedures and your discipline plan ready for open house night when parents get there. So that they know what your classroom management plan is. They know what your rewards and your consequences are. They can sign it. Everybody has a clear understanding and everybody is on what? The same page. This is going to make your year go by a lot smoother if everybody, parents, students, and teachers, are on the same page. When you get your discipline form created, make a copy and either send it to me digitally or print it out and give it to me. Okay? I want to review it with you before open house. All right? Uh-huh. Okay. Moving on down the page on page 94. Management is the organization and coordination of work, people, resources, and technology to achieve a well-defined set of objectives without wasting materials, time, or energy. Classroom management consists of the practices and procedures a teacher uses to create and maintain an environment in which instruction and learning can take place most effectively. Let's run that back a little bit. An environment in which instruction and learning can take place most effectively. If you have good classroom management, effective classroom management in place, learning is going to happen. Students are going to listen. Students are going to want to rise up to the expectation that you have set. And your classroom data that drives your instruction is going to go through the roof. Okay. If you need help with this, again, let me know. I don't mind coming and helping. Okay. I highlighted that whole section. Tap this page, highlight that. Also, I highlighted effective teachers manage a classroom. Creating a well managed classroom with established procedures is the essential priority during the first 2 weeks of school. Did Harry Wong say anything about diving into open court? Nope. Is it on their pacing guide? Yes. Are you supposed to be doing your getting started? Because that's what's going on those first couple of weeks of school. Yes, yes, you are. That's a review of the previous year. Can you stop that and practice those routines and procedures during that time? You should. That's going to make your classroom management so much better. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt. Myself, Dr. Thornton, Mr. Bates, we're not going to be coming in your classroom those first 2 weeks saying, why aren't you doing your open court lesson? If we see you, all right, we're going to be practicing our routines and procedures. All right, everybody, remember when we stand up, this is what we do. Dot, 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 dot. This is how we walk around the room. Dot, 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 dot. All right, we're going to practice. Ready, go. And you're going to instruct your students how to practice. Are you just going to tell them or are you going to show them? An effective teacher is going to model. You're going to be showing them exactly what you want them to do so that they see it effectively. They see the right way to do it and they're going to do it. Okay. You're going to practice, 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 practice all day long. You're going to practice. You're going to practice how to walk, practice how to sit, all the things you're going to practice. You are going to have a routine and procedure, especially in these lower grades, K2, for absolutely everything. You're going to have a routine and procedure of how to come into the classroom. You're going to have a routine and You're going to have a routine and procedure of how to come leave the classroom, okay? You're going to have a routine and procedure for absolutely everything, okay? All right, moving on. On page 97, I tabbed and highlighted the characteristics of a well-managed classroom. I highlighted numbers 1 through 4. I also highlighted at the very bottom, a well-managed classroom is task-oriented, and a well-managed classroom has a predictable environment. Okay. I highlighted both of those things. Go ahead and read through those. And don't forget on page 98, which we covered in Unit A, but the chart of an effective teacher and ineffective teacher. Okay. All right. Moving on to page 100. And this is getting into chapter 11. At the very top, the most important word in classroom management is P. The P word. Plan, 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 and plan some more. Plan, 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 and plan some more. There is no such thing as too much planning. All right? Plan your heart out. I also highlighted those 3 bullets in the middle of the page. Our work-oriented environment. The first week of school should stress large group organization and spend the first week of school on classroom management. All right. All right, moving on to page 102. Prepare your classroom to have it ready for your students every day of the school year from the first day to the last day. Super important. All right, moving on to page 103 through 104. I tabbed this page and I also highlighted under readiness determines teacher effectiveness, that very first paragraph on page 103, and also under preparing your classroom, those first 5 bullets. Okay, it's going to give you your do's and don'ts for preparing your classroom. All right, you don't want it to be overcrowded and cluttered. You don't want to over arrange or over decorate. A good rule of thumb when you are decorating your classroom and organizing your classroom, make sure whatever is out and up on the walls is meaningful. That's not saying that you don't have the autonomy to decorate how you want to and to be as cute as you want your classroom to be, or for it to be as simple as you need it to be, but it does need to be meaningful and effective. Okay. Over on the right-hand side of the page, before you do anything, I highlighted, begin with cleanliness. Cleanliness is effective. You should leave your classroom every day clean. Okay, we do have janitors working, but they also have a lot of classrooms to cover and to clean, okay? Allow your students to pick up the trash off the floor. It's okay, all right? If you have a vacuum that you want to bring up there, it's okay to run your vacuum over your floor. You should clean off your tables absolutely every single day. There shouldn't be big clumps of glue left on your table when you leave in the afternoon. I know that our workday ends at 3:15, but it's okay to take those 5 minutes to wipe off your table. Have some happy helpers in your classroom that's going to help you clean up the floor, wipe the tables, assign those helpers, okay? They're there for a reason. Use your classroom, establish those rules and procedures even when it comes to cleaning and maintaining a cleanliness in your classroom, okay? All right, moving on to page 106, in that box to the right, 4 basic rules of organization. Go ahead and read through those 4 basic rules and highlight, tab this page, okay? On page 108, I did also, under preparing teaching materials, I highlighted those bullets and read through those bullets. And I think it will be very helpful for you to do as well. All right. Moving on, greeting your students and seating arrangements. How we speak to our students matters, and where they sit is important. On page 110, I tab this page and I highlight it. The way we introduce ourselves and greet students on the first day of school can determine how much you will achieve together for the rest of the school year, which is very important. Guys at LPS, don't just sit behind your desk and quietly say, "Good morning. Hey, how you doing? Come on in, get your book bags unpacked, get started on your work. All right, guys, no talking. Sit down, get started." That is not the way we start our day at LPS. Be positive, have a smile on your face, stand outside your door, greet your students. You're also building your classroom community that we talked about in Unit A, okay? If Clyde is coming in and Clyde is upset, you can go ahead and grab Clyde because you're standing where? Outside your door. "Hey, Clyde, buddy, what's going on? Tell me about it." Okay? It's going to be okay. Reassure him, motivate him, comfort him, make sure he knows that this is his safe zone. You're his safe space, okay? You have him for 8 hours, all right? How you start the day, how he starts the day matters. Ella is in your classroom. Ella's mom emails you, "Hey, Ella got out of the car. She was really upset. She was crying. Can you let me know how she's doing?" "All right. Yes, I'm checking my email first thing in the morning." "I sure will, Mom." Ella comes down the hallway because you're standing where? Outside your door. You're greeting Ella. "Hey, Ella, sweetie, come here. Tell Miss Rose what's going on. What's happening?" She tells you that, she misses her mom. She misses her brother, whatever it could be. Comfort Ella. Make sure she knows she's going to see mom. She's going to see brother at the end of the day. It's okay. We're going to have fun today, okay? Go ahead and go in, get your things unpacked, okay? You might have another sweet girl, Mallory, in your classroom. "Mallory, can you please help Ella?" Mallory's going to come over and be a friend. She's going to make sure Ella's okay. You're building that classroom community, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're cashing it before it goes into your classroom, right? That's part of classroom management. All right. At the bottom, before and on the first day of school. Go ahead and highlight and read that paragraph. On page 111, before school begins, read numbers 1, 2, and 3. Highlight what you need. Take away what you need. Begin each day with the greeting, and it's going in depth. Steps 1 through 5 on page 112 and 113. I highlighted greet each student individually and warmly each day. and each class period. We don't have periods at LPS, but we do each day. Greet students as they come in. Remember, you are stepping in, okay, and being their protector for 8 hours a day. They have to feel safe when they're absent from their guardian. All right? Like apprentice, remember? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So make sure that you're greeting your students starting their day right. Now, do you have to do this big handshake stuff that they're doing on social media? Nope, you don't have to do all that. You do not. That is not required. But what is required is that you're positive, you're warm, and you are a smile to them when they see you. Some of these students, and it's getting more and more frequent, they're not seeing those smiles at home. They're not having those positive adults conversations at home. Okay. Okay. Make sure you're being that for them at the very beginning of each school day. There is a QR code on page 112 that you can scan and dive into. Okay. All right. Moving on to page 15, I did highlight in that box in the middle of page 115. Structure mixed with care and love is what every child needs in his or her life. Structure mixed with care and love is what every student needs in the classroom. Yep. Your important first words, highlight those 3 bullets in the middle of that page on page 118. On page 117, I'm sorry, that was on page 116. On page 117, how we speak to the class. Ooh, that's a big one, right? Remember, these students are on loan to you from their parents. Many of you are moms or dads, okay? Or do you want your child to be yelled at by their teacher on a daily basis? Wrong. No, you don't. Neither do these kids' parents, okay? Remember, these are somebody's babies, okay? Treat them how you would want your child to be treated. Don't yell at them. All right, on page 117, it goes through different ways that we can speak to our students without yelling. In my classroom, if the room was too loud, and this is why rules and procedures are so important, because we would practice this every single day for the first 3 weeks of school. All right. If they were getting too loud, I would sing the open shut them song. All right. I would go, open shut them, open shut them, give a little clap. And my voice was exactly this tone. It wasn't raised. All right. But my students knew because we rehearsed and it was automatic to them. When I started singing this song, they would gradually stop talking and start singing in. And by the end of the song, everybody was singing and they knew what to do later. So open, shut them, give a little clap. Open, shut them, lay them in your lap. Creep them, creep them, creep them, creep them, right up to your chin. Open up and do not let them in. And they count a bubble. And then I would make my announcement. Normally it would be, you are too loud. Okay. This is strike 1. And then on strike 3, we would have 2 to 3 minutes of silence. And they didn't want that, okay? That's where those what rules and procedures come in place, all right? So on page 17 through 18, it goes through, how to speak to students, okay? Students will gauge your confidence by you and how you say what you want to say. Learn to use volume effectively. We're not screaming at the kids. They can't listen to you if you're screaming to them. Matter of fact, whisper. That allows them to hush and actually listen to what you're saying. Speak in a calm manner. They mirror your vibe, as the young people would say. All right. Learn to use nonverbal cues. All right. Sometimes I would stand in the circle and I would just hold up a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. My fist would go up above my head and I would just start slowly raising up one finger at a time. And by the time I got to 5, they knew to catch a bubble. All right. Those are nonverbal. All right. Learn to communicate control effectively. If you're stressed, they're going to be stressed. If you're calm, they're going to be calm. Okay. The beauty about teaching and the beauty about teaching at LPS is that our administration gives us the autonomy to teach our classroom in our own style. So you don't have to raise your finger and count to 5. You don't have to sing the open shut them song. Do what's best for you and your personality. I have seen teachers, if you hear my voice clap once, if you hear my voice clap twice, that gets their attention. They're not yelling, they're just getting their attention. Okay. I have seen teachers use lights in their classroom. The blue light means that you're getting too loud, quiet down. The green light means that you're doing a great job. The red light means, up, talking's over. You've gotten too loud. I've warned you. Now there's silent time. Okay. So, whatever you want to do in your classroom to make it effective without elevating your voice, stressing yourself, stressing your students, that's what you need to do. All right. Page 118, the first days are critical. Students will develop their own habits or routines in classes where teachers do not teach procedures and communicate expectations. Highlight that at the bottom. Last but not least, listen. Go ahead and highlight that whole paragraph. You're going to want to come back to that. So tab this page, highlight it. Okay. On page 121, that box in the middle, classroom seating arrangements affect communication, concentration, and cooperation. Go ahead and read through seating arrangements at the very bottom. Remember, Johnny and Clyde, they don't need to sit beside each other. You got to move Johnny and Clyde because they're talking, they're playing, they're aggravating each other, they're aggravating everybody else, and they're disrupting your learning environment. Those first few days are critical and crucial, figuring out who can sit beside each other, who can't sit beside each other. Okay? I have my walk-in loop in my classroom. In my classroom, I had my 4 tables set up as like a horseshoe. And so I could walk inside that horseshoe and see absolutely everybody. I could walk outside my horseshoe and see absolutely everybody. What they were doing inside their desks, who they were talking to. I could be at the top of the room and I could see everyone. I could be at my desk, see everyone. My, the With a seating arrangement, you want to make sure that you can see everyone at all times because, again, they are your responsibility. So you have to answer to whatever's going on with your students in your classroom during the day. Okay. All right. On page 122, some different seating arrangements, and you can go through and read about the different seating arrangements. It even gives you pictures about what they might look like. On page 123, there is a QR code that you can scan that will give you examples, good examples about seating arrangements, as well as that chart at the very top of page 123. Okay, moving over to page 126. Reasons for a seating chart. And it 1, 2, 3 lists those good reasons. Another good reading for the seating chart is not just so that you can memorize the students' names at the beginning of the year, but for your substitute. What happens if a substitute comes in? They need to know that, guess what? No, Clyde, you don't sit beside Johnny. Clyde, you sit all the way over here across from Johnny, because Clyde will try that substitute and they'll try to sit by Johnny because Johnny is fun and Johnny talks to me and I can play with Johnny. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Johnny's sitting over there. Another good thing about seating arrangements and having that walk-in loop is you're able to see what students are doing with their hands. We teach at a primary school, okay? Their hands and their minds get idle. They start to play. In my classroom, I had different colored buckets on each table, all right? And those buckets were extra crayons because, of course, crayons get broken, crayons get thrown away, la, 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 la. So they need extra crayons. It cuts down on a lot of confusion throughout the year, throughout the day. Pencils did not go in pencil boxes. They went on top of the table in those bins. There were 4 students sitting at the table. 4 pencils were in the bin. They cut down on a lot of confusion, okay? Scissors went in that bin. I don't need anybody cutting hair. I don't need you cutting up your paper in your desk because you think that you're bored. All right. Scissors went in the bin. So when I'm walking around and I'm doing my walking loops, I can see, there's 4 students, there's 4 pencils. 4 students, 4 scissors. Glue sticks also went up there in that bin because I didn't need you gluing inside your desk. All right. The less things that they have inside their desks, the more productive the student will be. They won't play, they won't fidget, and the more you're walking around, monitoring that classroom, walking the room, not sitting at your desk. You're going to get your steps in now. You're going to be able to manage your classroom a lot better because you're going to see things, you're going to be able to stop it in real time, okay? All right, moving on. Procedures are super duper important. And like I said, this um, unit C, is so heavy and packed with important information. All right, on page 130 with chapter 14. Your very first priority when you start is to get students to work. One of the classroom procedures that I had when the students walked in, they had a procedure for putting down their backpacks, unpacking their backpacks with their lunch boxes, their tags, and their folder. They had a designated place to put all of those things. Routine and procedure, right? Plan, right? And then they were able to, after the first 3 weeks of school, they went to the restroom independently when they put their book bags up. The first 3 weeks of school, they would come right in after they put their book bags up, after they put their folders out. They sat down and they got started on their morning work immediately. Because before I left that afternoon, I put out their morning work, something that was independent for them to do for the next morning. So when they came in, because I'm outside greeting my students, right? In the previous chapter, I'm greeting my students, making sure that my classroom community is being built. And I'm catching things before they come to my classroom. The students are at their seats working independently on a worksheet that's a review, or a coloring sheet, kindergarten, that they can do independently, okay? I don't want to have to come in and have to teach a lesson for seat work first thing in the morning, okay? This is something that they need to know how to do independently, okay? That's those first 3 weeks of school. After the first three weeks of school and we've been to the restroom as a group, and I've taught restroom rules and procedures. Once students put up their book bags and their lunch boxes and got their folders out, they were able to go to the restroom one by one. Okay, but I'm in the hallway, so I'm listening, to the restroom, and I can tell if anybody's playing. And so they've gone to the restroom. I'm keeping a mental note who's gone to the restroom, who's come in. Once they come back into their classroom, they go to their seat and they start on their morning work. All right. So everything is always monitored. I'm at my doorway. I can listen to the restroom. I can see in the hallway. I can also listen to in my classroom, see in my classroom. Okay. Everything is monitored all the time because I have a plan. Right. All right. Go ahead and turn over to page 131. Starting on time yields these results. All right. And those 3 bullets that you can read through. Also, under the title, the agenda, I highlighted those bold points. The most effective way to get students straight to work is to prepare and to post a daily agenda. In the higher grades, absolutely, the students can read. Okay, you can post an agenda for them. All right, they're objective, right? Kindergarten, make sure they have something ready for them to do on their desk that they can do independently. Effective teachers ensure that their students sit down and get to work right away every day. There shouldn't be any dead time, any downtime. Downtime equals an idle mind. An idle mind is you know whose workshop, all right? Remember that, all right? Downtime equals chaos. Okay, moving on to page 134. I tab this page. Go ahead and read through your bell ringers and the opening assignments. Moving on to chapter 15, starting on page 138. We're going to move over to page 139, those 3 C's. Go ahead and read through those 3 C's. Highlight, tab this page. On page 140, lack of procedures. A vast majority of behavior problems in the classroom are caused by the lack of procedures. Remember, there is going to be a routine and procedure for absolutely everything. Your procedure is how things are getting done. Your routine is the automaticity of it. They're going to do it automatically once they have practiced the procedure. Okay, it becomes a routine. On page 141, it goes to the difference between a rule and a procedure. All right, you can read through that. And just at the bottom, I highlighted Rules dictate how students behave. Procedures determine how things are done. Rules have penalties and rewards. Procedures have no penalties and rewards. Effective teachers teach students how to follow procedures responsibly. Ineffective teachers use controlling tactics to coerce students into compliance. Okay. Moving on to page 144. Why procedures are important. I highlight those bullet points that you can read through. And I also starred that box procedures, what the teacher wants done, and routines. Procedures students learn to do automatically. On page 145, for their benefit, I tap this page and highlight those bullets. You can read through those in your quote unquote spare time, right? And on page 147, in the first few days of school, teach only the procedures necessary at that time. Teach the other procedures at the appropriate time when the need arises. That's why you're giving you those 3 weeks to really practice and teach those routines and procedures, because there's going to be some routines or procedures that you didn't think of when you were thinking about your routines and procedures that you'll need to add in. So as they arise, create a procedure and a routine for that, okay? Reasons for procedures. You can read through those highlighted points. Procedure to start the day, procedure for quiet in the classroom, procedure for students seeking help, procedures for movements of students and paper. On page 148, procedures for the dismissal at the end of the day, okay? And then at the very bottom of page 147, that box, classroom procedures that become routines. Go ahead and read through that, okay? And as well as the box on page 148. The 3 steps to teaching procedures. Tab this page, come back to this page because it's going to be very important. There's also a scan code on page 147 for procedures at home. In your discipline contract that you send home on open house night, make sure those routines and procedures are listed on that so that parents are on the same page with you. So that way, if Clyde is on yellow light or if Johnny's on red light, they know that these routines and procedures have been followed. That fish stick that we talked about earlier. And the consequent matches the routine and procedure, okay? Or the reward matches that. Speaking of that cubby that was on the desk, I used to have a fish stick that was in that cubby for each student. So Clyde had a fish stick, Johnny had a fish stick, Ella had a fish stick, Alina had a fish, everybody had a fish stick, okay? That fish stick served as a visual warning, all right? So if Clyde had been talking, I've told Clyde, you're talking too much, baby, okay? It's not time for talk. Clyde keeps talking. All right, Clyde, give me that fish stick. That's his visual warning, one of the visual warnings, all right? Clyde said, you know what? I don't care about that fish stick. I'm going to keep talking. Clyde keeps talking. Clyde keeps bothering people at his table. All right, Clyde, I've already taken your fish stick. So now, Clyde, your name goes on my side pad. All right? Clyde's name goes on my side pad. Another visual warning for Clyde. All right? Clyde said, I hadn't even moved a lot yet. I'm going to keep talking. So Clyde keeps talking. And I've already told Clyde to stop talking. I've given him 2 verbal warning and visual warning. So that's 3 warnings, probably more, really. Now Clyde has to move a light and his folder gets marked. Okay. But because I have explained all of my steps to Clyde and he knows what's going on because they're procedures, it's not a surprise that after the side pad, name going on the side pad, Clyde has to move a light. That's not a surprise. Clyde is now crying because I said what I said and I meant what I said and I did what I said I was going to do. Okay? Part of classroom management, right? Not going back on my word, right? Clyde gets home. Mom says, let me see your folder, Clyde. Clyde said, I have a yellow line, Mom. Mom says, why? Clyde said, because I was talking. Mom goes and gets my behavior plan that she signed. Because I've planned it out, right? And I've given mom a copy. So we're on the same page, right? Classroom community, right? Mom says, yep. Clyde, did Miss Rose take your fish stick? Clyde says, yes, mom. Clyde, did Miss Rose put your name on the board? Yes, mom. Mom, Miss Rose did put my name on the board. Well, Clyde, Miss Rose told you to stop talking, and she gave you an additional 2 other warnings. So yeah, you had to move your light. So now, Clyde, you get whatever consequence that they have at home. Mom, teacher, on the same page. Because mom and teacher communicated. We planned together. So Clyde knows that if he gets in trouble at home, mom has teacher's back. Because mom and teacher on the same page. You see how it all fits together? Yes, right. Okay. Moving on. Page 149, I did highlight in the middle of that box. All procedures must be rehearsed. Practice, practice, practice. You have to practice these procedures in order for them to become a routine. Routines are automatic, right? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. So when there is a substitute later on in the year, and your routines and procedures are listed in that subfolder, and on the board or on your wall in the classroom, and the students act like they don't know what they're doing, but they really do. You come back, everybody that was on that list has to move a light, because it should be automatic. It was a routine and procedure that you have gone over in detail for the first 3 weeks of school, right? Yes. Okay, moving on. On page 153, I did tab this page for using the 3 steps. You can go ahead and read through that. Teach, rehearse, and reinforce. Okay, those are the 3 big things when we're talking about routines and procedures. Okay, you got to teach them, rehearse them. So you're going to model them. You're not just going to tell them what to do. You're going to show them, okay, this is how I sit in my seat. This is how I'm going to sit at my seat at my desk or my table. Yes, yes. This is how I sit on the carpet. I'm actually going to physically go to the carpet and sit crisscross applesauce. Look at the board because guess what? That is my model. I'm going to show them how to stand and walk around my classroom to go back to their seat. Because I'm modeling, right? And then we're going to rehearse together. And we're going to repeat that rehearse over and over and over and over and over and over and over again so that it becomes a routine. And then I'm going to reinforce. Okay, after week 3, we're going to start moving lights for the routines and procedures that are not done correctly because we have practice, I have taught, we have practice, I have taught, we have practice and I have taught. Now I'm going to reinforce. Okay, remind the class of the procedures. You're going to remind them all the time. Every single day, you're going to remind them. Remember, boys and girls, da 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 da. Okay? Yep. Affirm that the procedure has been done correctly. Give those rewards. All right, we're standing in line. You have your bubble. You have your hands locked. All right, this Ella, you get a sticker. Ella is standing right. Yes, she is. Once you start giving those compliments and those little cheap stickers or Skittles or whatever it is that you give in your classroom, everybody else is going to start falling in line because guess what? They want Miss Rose to call them out too. Clyde, that is always talking and gets in trouble. Guess what? Clyde's doing the right thing, so I'm gonna make sure Clyde is doing the right thing. Clyde, come get this sticker. Here you go, Clyde. Keep up the good work, Clyde. As much as I am getting on to Clyde for talking and playing, I am also going to give him rewards for doing the right thing. Don't dismiss that. That's building that what? Classroom community. It all fits back, right? It's all connected. Okay? Page 155, we're still talking about that teach, rehearse, and reinforce. So I've tabbed that page on 155 and 156, and I've highlighted what needs to be highlighted. I want you to go ahead and do the same thing. Okay? All right. On page, we're going to skip on over to page 169. This is starting chapter 16. On page 169, I'm looking at things that are going on before the first day of school and on the first day of school. Okay. And when a student is absent. There's also some QR codes on page 170 that you can scan to dive deep into. So tab that page. Actually, tab page 169 through 167 and highlight what needs to be highlighted. Okay. And also scan those QR codes. On page 201, we are getting into chapter 17. All right. So on page 201, flipping. Sorry, guys. On page 201, behavior management with rules and procedures. On 123, rules. I highlighted this. What students are expected to follow. Negative consequences and positive consequences. Of course, with your rules, you have your rewards and your consequences. List those out on your discipline plan because because students and parents need to know those, okay? That's very, very important. All right, page 203. Two kinds of consequences. You got your positive and your negative. Highlight, read through those. You got your rewards and your penalties, right? Right. All right. A consequence is a result of a person's chosen actions. And I repeatedly say this in class. You made the choice. We all make choices. We can make a good choice or a bad choice. You can get a reward or a consequence. It's up to you. And they know that. If you repeatedly say that, it'll get ingrained in their mind. Okay? All right. There should be no surprises in your classroom because you have rules, procedures, and you have consequences and rewards to those rules and procedures. All right? All right. Page 207. Tab this page, reward the class. So go ahead and read through that because rewarding the class is beneficial for everyone. All right. And make a big deal, especially for those little stinkers that we have in class and we all know who they are. Reward them because they need it too. Okay. All right. Your homework. Introduction. We're going to call our parents. We're going to introduce ourselves. We're going to be positive, right? We're going to be optimistic for the school year, right? And we're going to answer the questions that they have as good as we can answer them. If you don't know the answer, don't try to make up one. Just tell them that you'll email them the answer, right? Because you don't want to tell anybody the wrong thing, right? Plan. We're going to have a plan for open house with all of our little pretty folders. Yep. Our discipline plan is going to be in that folder. Yes, it is. As well as an all about the teacher because they want to know about you, right? Yep. We're also going to have important information going on in our classroom, right? And we're going to have it all about the student that the parent can fill out. A little one pager. That's not too in depth, but you want to know about your students, right? We're also going to have a plan for day one. How are the students getting home? You got to have that plan and make sure this is a K-2 school. We need to know if they're getting on a bus, what number of bus are they getting on? Transportation, car rider, last. What's going on with that student? Script. We got to write that script for day one, a script for day two, and then a script for days 3 through 5. We got to know what's going on. Fill in all those minutes through the day, whether it's playing a get to know me game, going to the restroom, whatever it is, write it down, script it out. You cannot plan, you cannot overplan, right? Right. Okay. Discipline plan. Create a meaningful discipline plan. Remember, if you need help with this, let me know. I am here to help. I am a resource for you. Okay. All right. Make sure parents sign a copy of that. So that way, when Clyde's mom comes up and she says, why does he have 5 minutes out of Fun Friday time? Ma'am, in the signed document that you signed on August the 4th at our open house, it states that if Johnny gets on red light, he gets 5 minutes out of Fun Friday free play. Oh, yeah, that is right. Thank you, Miss Rose. No problem. You're on the same page, classroom community, right? Rules and procedures. Write down your rules and procedures. Make sure they're clear and concise. Make sure the parents know those rules and procedures. So that way when Johnny comes home, mom can say, you know what, Miss Rose's rules are da. You did not do da. This is what da happened, okay? You have to be as one, not as one, but you have to be in agreement with each other. Parents and teachers work together to make an effective and successful classroom, okay? If the students know that the parents and the teachers are working together, man, oh man, they'll fall in line. All right, so for Unit C, which was heavy, we covered classroom management. The number one factor in student success: preparations, plan, how to greet your students, and then routines and procedures, discipline, procedures, and it says root, but it's supposed to be rules, okay? Chaos isn't cute. Procedures are peace. Don't just tell them, train them. From Harry Wong. All right, your Unit C wrap up. Question: what procedures need a refresher? What procedures don't you have in place? What procedures do you want to add? Your challenge: create or review your current classroom management plan, discipline plan, classroom rules and procedures prior to the first week of school. And go ahead and drop that classroom management plan, discipline plan in Miss Rose's box. You can share it with me digitally or give me a hard copy, but I want to look at it and go over it with you. So that way there are no loose ends later on throughout the year, okay? All right. You are amazing. Let's start the year strong and stay strong, okay? Because you got this. And I am here for you. Don't forget, I am your resource and I am your cheerleader, all right? All right. Guys, have a good one. I'll see you soon.